Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. A lot to get to today. We're going to discuss the new Tennessee football apparel deal with Adidas. It is a massive deal. It is huge. It will do a lot for Tennessee in the future. I'm going to break everything down why. Also, beyond that, reports are out that Tennessee is close to naming a starting quarterback, and also we are close to knowing who we might already know who that starting quarterback is. And surprise, surprise, it's no surprise. Beyond that, we have the SP Plus rankings, the final SP Plus rankings before the season kicks off in the preseason. Tennessee's new rankings we're going to discuss where they are at and all the teams around them, basically, that they have either leapfrogged or fallen behind since the final SP Plus rankings at the end of last year, because there have been four. There was one at the end of last year in January. Then there was one at the beginning of spring. Then there was one at the end of spring. And now there's one in fall camp right before the season starts. So we're going to talk about those. Lane Kiffin and Auburn, man, the hits just keep on coming for Auburn. He took another shot at Auburn and Hugh, and he had a point. That'll be what the H. And finally, college football rules changes. A bunch have been made official and set in stone. We're going to play hot or cold on which ones we agree with, which ones we disagree with. So hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. Tell a friend. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, BanksandJones.com. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. New and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get rolling with today's tough question, brought to you by Banks & Jones. And it surrounds Tennessee's new apparel deal. After 10 years with Nike, Tennessee is moving back over to Adidas, which was its apparel brand and sponsor from 1997 through 2014. With this move, Tennessee is upping its pay from $5.5 million with Nike to $20 million with Adidas. Yes, $20 million with Adidas, guys. That is, let me point this out real quick, too. Tennessee was contractually obligated to go back to Nike and give them the offer that Adidas gave them. Nike was not interested in matching it. That means Tennessee is back with Adidas. This is the largest apparel brand in college football right now. This is the largest apparel endorsement deal in college football. Oregon's deal with Nike is 11 years, $88 million. Tennessee's is 10 years, $200 million. This is a 10-year contract. This is a gigantic increase in funds for Tennessee. And by the way, with this comes also lucrative NIL deals, not just involving Adidas paying money for the jerseys, by the way. They also, on top of that, can endorse players in NIL deals, which I'm sure they will, depending on how good the players are. So this is a huge deal for Tennessee in so many ways. But today's tough question is this. Does the new Adidas deal give Tennessee a sizable advantage over the rest of college football? And you guys go ahead and vote on that, yes or no, because in the NIL age, this is huge for a few reasons. I've told you guys before, like the revenue sharing never mattered to me, like the house settlement where you can pay players $20.5 million or pay athletes, because I've said for a long time that every school is going to generate that and pay that to the players. What I always said was the big advantages will still be in the third-party NIL endorsements and who can generate the most funds. Now, that involves booster revenue and things like that. It's all kind of in a pot, and I want to make this clear on how this works out. This isn't third-party revenue. Adidas is giving money directly to Tennessee. But the Adidas endorsement deals with athletes is third-party revenue and NIL revenue, and there is absolutely nothing, by the way, that anybody in Congress could do to stop that or limit it or limit what Adidas can pay the athletes. They can't do anything. So that's a huge part of this. On top of that, the reason it's all technically in a pot, even though there's a legality of how the money is sent around, is if Tennessee is generating a lot more revenue directly for itself, while it can't increase the amount it's allowed to pay athletes from the $20.5 million with that revenue, that means it can solicit. It doesn't have to solicit as much revenue from boosters and donors. And those boosters and donors can, on a third-party front, endorse more athletes, and that's where there's more NIL money to go around. So then the next question is, how much of a decided advantage is this? Again, I just told you this is the largest apparel brand in history. And if you want to look up, I want to give a shout out to a Twitter account, Wildest Mink. They basically used Google search and looked at all the largest, looked at all the SEC apparel brands. And I'm going to share this with you. The numbers. Tennessee's at 20 million, Texas at 16, Texas A&M at 9. So Tennessee is ahead of Texas now. Texas A&M's at 9, Auburn's 8, Kentucky 7, South Carolina 7, LSU 5.8, Alabama 5.25, Ole Miss 4, Missouri 3.2, Florida 3, Georgia 2.8, Mississippi State 2.2, Arkansas 2, Oklahoma 1.8, Vandy 1.8. Now, here's where there's a rub and where I will make the argument for the other side. A lot of these contracts with these other schools are about to run out. If Tennessee's the first school to ink this long-term apparel brand, the fear for Tennessee is that other schools making like in the 5 to 6 million range, those schools are now going to demand a large apparel contract in 2027 or 2028. They'll get a larger deal than Tennessee just because the market was reset, and then Tennessee can't renegotiate until 10 years later. That's how this works in these type of NIL arms races and endorsement and apparel arms races. That's a big fear if you're Tennessee. Did you jump into this too early? The way the SEC jumped in too early to the 10-year contract with ESPN at $300 million per year back in 2019 that was going to go into effect starting in 2024, as it did. The Big Ten then got a 7-year $1 billion a year contract with 3 different networks 3 years later. So jumping in too early can be a fear. And the truth of the matter is we don't know for sure which way this is going to go. Will this give Tennessee a decided advantage for years to come? Or did they jump into the contract too early and other schools will surpass them with bigger deals down the road? And this just reset the market to begin with. I actually think it gives Tennessee a decided advantage down the road for years to come. And I'm going to explain why. Today's Tough Question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com.
The poll question, does the new Adidas deal give Tennessee a sizable advantage over the rest of college football? Yes, say 64%. No, say 36%. Here's why it does, and here's why it will be for years to come. I don't think other schools are going to be able to negotiate these type of deals with apparel brands. I think this was a unique deal with Adidas. Adidas took the first school that was willing to come to them to give this big endorsement because Adidas, let's just point this out, Adidas versus Nike. Nike is a much bigger brand, particularly in the United States, does not need to get these big deals and big endorsements, okay? They just don't. And because they don't need to get these big deals and big endorsements and big apparel numbers, they're not going to throw this amount of money at any other school. More importantly, and this is a big, big one right here, Adidas can't afford to throw this type of money at every other school. Adidas is hitching its wagon to the success of Tennessee at this point going forward, the way Nike hitched its wagon to Michael Jordan in the 1980s, where, yeah, they would get other shoe deals for everybody, but it all depended on Michael Jordan. So this isn't Tennessee jumping into an early contract, resetting the market, and then falling behind other schools later. No, this is Tennessee getting in early and then helping this brand grow. This brand is dependent on Tennessee. Their futures are inextricably tied together. With that in mind, I think Tennessee is going to have a very sizable advantage over the rest of college football and the rest of the SEC with this type of deal. Obviously, we know Texas's deal with Nike. I think it is Nike that they have the deal with. You guys can correct me on this. Yes, it's 15 years, $250 million, which I believe is 16. Yeah, that's where you get the 16 million a year deal pretty much. So, but Tennessee's is bigger. And again, Nike did that with Texas. by far the largest, best brand possible, and they're being represented by Kevin Durant. The only other school that could potentially, that I think would potentially join in on this, there's two. There's two of the sides that I think would, that could give Tennessee trouble. North Carolina, because of the Jordan brand, okay, which is a big one. And now Bill Belichick's there. I mean, North Carolina could always have that advantage. Actually, there's three others. Texas, North Carolina with the Jordan brand, and Ohio State with LeBron. Because even though LeBron didn't go to college, LeBron is an Ohio loyalist in a lot of ways, and he might actually try to make Ohio State that type of program. And they are big, and they are a gigantic behemoth of a program that would be worth it as an investment for Nike. The third one would be Oregon theoretically, but Nike, I don't think would make as big of an investment in that one as the other schools, because I'm just going to be honest, Kevin Durant, Michael Jordan, and LeBron, who are big parts of Nike, feel a lot more loyalty to Texas, North Carolina, and Ohio State than Phil Knight does to Oregon. I think Phil Knight, I think part of what he does at Oregon is part of a branding thing. And so I don't think he's as committed to that. But the biggest one I think would be, obviously there's Texas. North Carolina, I think, is the biggest threat overall. As far as the jerseys, everybody used to complain about the jerseys. I never got that, because my favorite jerseys in Tennessee football history were the Stormtrooper white jerseys. The all-white jerseys with the orange letters and the black outlines around the letters. I never liked the switch to Nike for that reason, because I missed that one. But we're going to see how this goes. There's going to be a lot of apparel and how things are happening. But this is a huge deal for Tennessee to ink this contract with Adidas. And it starts in 2026, but they are already getting NIL deals, which is going to be a big deal for them on the recruiting trail, at least in the near future. Portions of the program are brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com. It is time for Bank on It. And it's brought to you by Commercial Bank member FDIC, Life Made Better. Pete Nakos of On3 is reporting that Tennessee is trending towards naming Joey Aguilar as its starting quarterback. Obviously, Nakos was the one who reported that Nico Iamaleava was holding out for more money during spring practice. That report leaked. Iamaleava didn't show up for practice the next day. And then on Saturday of the spring game, he transferred to UCLA. Ironically, obviously, UCLA had Aguilar at the time. With Iamaleava transferring to UCLA, Aguilar transferred out of UCLA, and Tennessee picked him up. Aguilar had transferred to UCLA in the offseason and played at Appalachian State last year. Aguilar, as the graduate transfer senior with 1 year left of eligibility, was always the favorite to start at quarterback once Tennessee landed him. But he had to compete with Jake Merklinger, a four-star who had been in the system for a year already and had the experience running Heupel's system. And then also George McIntyre, the freshman phenom, who's probably the best of the three talent-wise. So with that in mind, Aguilar didn't have just the easiest advantage, although I talked about the politicking from Josh Heupel and that he was trying to make it work where Aguilar would be the starter no matter what. And I still believe that. Even though George McIntyre looked like he was the best performer in the first scrimmage, according to reports. Heupel said at the start of fall camp, as did Joey Halzle, Josh Heupel and Joey Halzle both said at the start of fall camp that they wanted to name a starting quarterback and go into the season with it. They weren't going to have this open competition into the season, which you see sometimes with schools. Heupel said they like to name a starting quarterback early. With this Pete Nakos report, it sounds like that's what they're doing. We already saw the reports that McIntyre was practicing with the third team a week into fall camp, meaning he was already eliminated even if he was the best performer in the scrimmage. We know the politicking that I've told you about on why Heupel wants Aguilar to get the starting job, because he doesn't want to have, he wants an open competition next year between Merklinger and McIntyre, and then when Faison Brandon comes in. And he knows that if he starts McIntyre or Merklinger, he can't have that open competition next year, because you can't have an open competition with a returning starter at quarterback who has some success. So taking that all into account, I do believe Nakos is reporting that they are trending towards naming Joey Aguilar the starting quarterback. And it makes sense. It's fall camp. You want to get things going as quickly as possible so you can get as many first-team reps with one guy as you can and have him build a rapport with his receivers, which is what it sounds like it's going to do. So my point with all that is this. Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank, member FDIC, Life Made Banner. Not only will Joey Aguilar be the starter, Joey Aguilar is going to be taking all the first team reps by the end of this week. Bank on it.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
So I'm putting up the poll question now. Should Josh Heupel keep the quarterback competition going for as long as he needs to? And you guys can say yes or no. He needs to name a starter. So you guys go ahead and vote on that. The question again, should Josh Heupel keep the quarterback competition going for as long as he needs to? Yes or no, he needs to name a starter. I think for Josh Heupel this year, I think the big deal is, again, I've talked about this before, and I'll say it again with this offense. It's very easy for a quarterback to pick up. It's extremely easy. You read a safety. That's all you do in this offense is you read a safety. And Aguilar is a quick decision maker. It's actually even a better situation for him because he thinks fast. He's quick, even if, and I know he threw a lot of interceptions last year, but Josh Heupel's offense doesn't really allow for quarterbacks to throw a lot of interceptions. There's just not that many opportunities. So I think this is a very easy situation for Aguilar to pick up. What I would say is the biggest part of this offense, and the most difficult part, though, is the rapport that's established between the quarterbacks and the receivers. The receivers, and you see this with true freshmen more than anybody when they're in their first year in the system, not so much experienced players who have played college football if it's their first year in the system. The receivers have to anticipate where the quarterback's going to expect them to break on the route. There are multiple option routes for each receiver in the system. They have to pick the option route that they expect the quarterback to expect them to pick. That involves developing a rapport with the quarterbacks and also making sure they know how to read the safeties the same way the quarterback's reading them. And because it all comes down to the decision the quarterback makes. And so with that in mind, I think, and even, by the way, in Nico Yamaliava's defense last year, there were about 3 interceptions he threw that you saw receivers break on the wrong route a few times, actually. This is why Mike Matthews didn't play a lot his first year as a wideout. It's hard for a true freshman to pick it up. The same with Braylon Staley. Assuming Braylon Staley's fully healthy, they both could get a lot of action this year and be very effective players. But Braylon Staley has not been out on the field in fall camp, which is a problem because this is a big thing that they have to address. Now, I think the slot receivers don't have to read as much as the wideouts. The slot receivers just run bare. I mean, Jalen Hyatt, there was not a lot of difficulty with what Jalen Hyatt had to do in 2022. Okay. That was more about actually Brew McCoy and Ramel Keaton understanding the route concepts. And before that, Cedric Tillman, before he got hurt, understanding the route concepts. So taking all of that into account, I would say very much so that Josh Heupel needs to name his starting quarterback now and get him with the first team, as many first team reps as possible. Because also in the passing game, particularly if Tennessee has these injuries at receiver, the tight ends are an issue. They need the tight ends, and they have to be able to get them the ball. And if they can't get the tight end, and that's also establishing a rapport, particularly Miles Kitselman, who had to get an injury cleaned up in the offseason, probably couldn't work out with Joey Aguilar as much during summer workouts because of that. He has to develop a rapport with him and Ethan Davis. So yes, while I think the quarterback situation may have been an unfair race, while I think Josh Heupel was politicking the whole time to name Joey Aguilar the quarterback, and you can criticize that all day, I'm also going to point out that I firmly believe in a big way whoever was the starting quarterback needs to be named the starting quarterback now. The poll question up, should Josh Heupel keep the quarterback competition going for as long as he needs to? 45% say yes. 55% say no, he needs to name a starter. I'm with the 55%. And I'm with the 55% not because of the quarterback, because again, it's an easy offense to pick up because of the receivers. The receivers have to get used to the quarterback's cadence and the quarterback's tendencies and how the quarterback is going to read the safety. Tight ends too, but mostly the receivers. If Mike Matthews is going to be a superstar that we all believe he can be, he's got to have an understanding of Joey Aguilar's tendencies and where Joey Aguilar likes to throw the ball. That's a big deal. So with that in mind, no, he doesn't need to keep this quarterback competition open. He needs to make sure that his quarterback is picked now. Derek Owen says, now I kind of wish Hype would have let Nico go back in December. Yeah, but no one knew that it was going to, you say that you only regret at this point. Yeah, but no one knew that that was going to be a thing and how it happened. Derek also says, makes me not a big fan of this offense when it comes to wide receivers, man. Not in today's NIL situation. Nobody wants to sit at a skill position. Very true, Derek, but also you look at Jalen Hyatt winning the Biletnikoff in 2022, and a receiver might say it's worth it for that. Don't trip over nickels in search of dollars. That's the saying that Calipari had, and that's just how they're going to have to approach this. So Steve says, I'd say we're about as set at QB as we can with Nico bolting in the spring. I think you're right. I think that's a great point, Steve. So with all that, I think that, look, no one is shocked by this, that Joey Aguilar is being named the starter. I will say, to put the politicking part of it aside, because I believe Josh Heupel needed to name a starter early, even if George McIntyre was the best performer in the scrimmage, there is reasonable belief that right now, Joey Aguilar is the most ready for this offense and for this system. And even if George McIntyre would surpass him at the end of fall camp, Josh Heupel's got to go. He's got to roll. He's got to roll. He's got to get these receivers acclimated to the offense, okay? And he's got to get them acclimated to the quarterback. And if he doesn't, Tennessee is going to be in big trouble. So that's why I think it's huge that Josh Heupel has... Honestly, it's hugely important that Josh Heupel name his starting quarterback now. He has no choice, okay? And maybe that's not the best way to approach this. I said from the start, maybe stick with George McIntyre all spring. Maybe if he had worked out George McIntyre as the main starter first-team guy at the beginning of fall camp, or Jake Merklinger for that matter, we'd be having a different story. But once he got Joey Aguilar, and once he opened up the competition, and once Joey Aguilar was likely ahead of everybody at the start of fall camp, just because of his style of play, maybe not Jake Merklinger, but close enough to where he could surpass him with his experience within a week, which it seems like he has. I don't think there was any way you could look at this situation and not think that it's not a smart move for him to go ahead and go all in with Aguilar. And I think that, I think with all that in mind, I think there's really nothing wrong with Josh Heupel trying to go ahead and name a starter now. And I think he's going to, I think he's doing that. By the end of this week, again, Aguilar will be taking all the first team reps for Tennessee. Portions of the program brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection of strict standards. Hemp House, chat with 2Ts.com, hemphousechatwith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off when we come back. The SP Plus rankings are out, and there are a lot of interesting tidbits in it. The final ones before the start of the season. Stick with us. I'm going to break them down 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem.
Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good,
You're gonna need a new one ASAP.
you are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Welcome in Off the Hook Sports. Welcome back to the program. Hit that like and subscribe button. Caleb Calhoun here. Ring the bell. Turn on your notifications. We are building something great here. We want you to be a part of it. The show brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones. By T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. We're live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio, your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. The poll question up before the break: should Josh Heupel keep the quarterback competition going for as long as he needs to? It's a dead heat, man. 50-50. Oh, now it's gone up to 53%. No, he needs to name a starter. 47% say yes, he should keep it going for as long as he needs to. I am in the no, he needs to name a starter camp. All right, let's get rolling. It's time for 4 Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln, and it involves the SP Plus rankings. The final SP Plus rankings before the start of the 2025 season are officially out. They came out this morning. Tennessee came in at number 12. Ohio State's number 1, Alabama's number 2, Georgia's number 3, Penn State's number 4, Texas is number 5, Notre Dame's number 6, Oregon's number 7, Michigan's number 8, Ole Miss is number 9, Clemson's number 10, LSU's number 11, Tennessee's number 12. A couple of notes for Tennessee. They face Alabama based on I talked yesterday about their easy schedule based on the top 25 rankings, but based on the SP Plus rankings, their schedule is actually pretty brutal because they play Alabama and Georgia, who are number 2 and number 3 in these rankings. They also play Oklahoma and Florida, who are numbers 15 and 16 respectively in these rankings, visiting Alabama and visiting Florida. That's a pretty tough road, honestly. I'm a little shocked at how tough that is. Tennessee's SP Plus rankings, their offense is number 33 at 31.9, which is interesting because they lost 9 starters on offense. So to be that high on offense is actually pretty intriguing. Their defensive score is they have the 4th best defense SP Plus wise at 12.5 of a score. No surprise, pretty much a lot of the key players are back outside of James Pierce. Special teams at 0.2 is number 21. Their average win would be at 8.9. Honestly, projected at about 9-3 this year based on the SP Plus rankings, and their strength of schedule rank is number 24. Now, to point out, looking at the rest of the SEC, Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and LSU, I believe Alabama, Georgia, Texas, and LSU, and Ole Miss all have tougher strength of schedule than Tennessee and are ahead of Tennessee. Behind Tennessee, Texas A&M has the 10th ranked strength of schedule. Florida has the 2nd ranked strength of schedule. Oklahoma has the toughest strength of schedule. South Carolina's is number 7. Missouri's is number 25. Auburn's is number 15. If you guys are noticing where I'm going here, you would be right. The point I'm making with all of this is that, and Texas is number 12. Tennessee does have what looks to be the 2nd easiest schedule in the SEC, only to Missouri, and they're only 1 spot ahead of Missouri, 24-25. Vanderbilt has the 5th toughest strength of schedule, by the way. Kentucky the 8th. Those are the bottom teams in the SEC. And then Mississippi State at number 6, the 6th toughest strength of schedule. Since the end of last season, when the first SP Plus rankings came out in January, Tennessee has been shuffled around 5 other schools that they've either fell behind, jumped ahead of, or jumped ahead of, then fell behind, then jumped ahead of, or fell behind, then jumped ahead of, then fell behind. That they have not consistently been ahead of or behind. There are 5 schools. Everybody else has either completely been behind Tennessee or completely been ahead of Tennessee. Those 5 schools are Ole Miss, LSU, Clemson, Michigan, and Miami. So we're going to talk about each SP Plus ranking in a little bit of 4 Downs, brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. And what we're going to do is discuss what happened in each of those moments and who leapfrogged them and what it meant at the time. So first, a message from Cooper Mays. Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe. For those who don't know, again, I say this every day. Dave has a little soundboard, and whenever we do 4 downs, we usually use Cooper Mays' voice to bring in the downs, and I don't have the soundboard, so I'm just imitating Cooper Mays. Cooper, I love you, and I appreciate you. I'm just having fun when I do it, okay? Just want you to know, I think you are one of the best centers in modern history of Tennessee football, and I think you were an amazing leader. All right, so Coop here, first down. Tennessee finished the year, or Tennessee was number 9 back in January. The number 12 right now, by the way. But they were number 9 back in January. Now, and I think I need to insist that Tennessee was number 12 in the SP Plus rankings, the final ones going into the season. I think I accidentally said number 13. I might have. I don't know for sure. But if I did, I'm sorry. They're number 12. So anyways, Tennessee's number 9. That was a good sign for them at the time because those SP Plus rankings were based on who was coming back and everything like that. And that was right in line with where they finished in the AP and coaches polls. It looked like by all measurements, they were the 9th best team in college football that year, particularly since, yes, they lost their first playoff game 42-17, but it was to the eventual national champions on the road who blew out everybody. So with that, it made sense for Tennessee to be number 9. Cooper Mays here. Suck it down. Pre-spring practice, Tennessee leapfrogged Ole Miss to get to number 8. This was because while their transfer portal was not that active, they added Sam Pendleton and Wendell Moe Jr. What was active was the amount of attrition Ole Miss suffered in the portal under Lane Kiffin because Lane Kiffin has built the entire program via the portal. And because of that, Ole Miss lost a lot of talent. And in the pre-spring practice rankings, they were down. They jumped up to number 8 to leapfrog Ole Miss. Tennessee Center Cooper Mays here. 3rd down. Post-spring practice, Tennessee dropped 5 spots. They fell behind Ole Miss, LSU, Clemson, Michigan, and Miami to number 13. We know what happened post-spring practice. That's when Nico Iamaleava hit the transfer portal. That obviously was going to dramatically alter the SC Plus rankings for Tennessee's losses on offense. So that's why they fell down to number 13. Now, to be fair, those post-spring rankings came out on May 22nd, 2025. And by that point, Tennessee had added Joey Aguilar, which helped offset their loss, to be fair. And they also had added Colton Hood, who actually added value to them, and they added him on May the 2nd. So on that note, it wasn't as big of a drop-off as it could have looked. But at the time, it still knocked them down to number 13. 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. And we broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All SEC Center Cooper Mays here. 4th down. Cooper Mays is with us in spirit. All right, 4th down. Tennessee is officially number 12 in the final preseason polls that came out ahead of the 2025 season, the SP Plus rankings, that is. They leapfrogged, wait for it, Miami. Miami dropped to number 14. So, they are still behind Clemson, LSU, Michigan, and Ole Miss. All teams they have been ahead of at some point this offseason. They're 1 spot ahead of Texas A&M, who's number 13. They've never fallen behind Texas A&M. So let me go ahead and break down one of the flaws of the SP Plus rankings, which is that there is a level of chemistry that can't be factored in because sometimes chemistry of returning talent, people who have played together, can outweigh the just raw talent and additions you have. So let's break this down with some of the teams that they have leapfrogged or fallen behind. I'm going to break down all 5 of them. Miami. I think they're right to be ahead of Miami, but I wouldn't have minded Miami ahead of them either. Miami did get an all-world quarterback. They do have a lot of talent down there, as little as I believe in Mario Cristobal. They also have an easy road in the ACC. Miami has a 36th ranked strength of schedule. The one reason I'm fine with Miami being behind them is because, one, they didn't finish the season strong last year. They choked with Cam Ward, a number 1 draft pick, and Mario Cristobal runs a spread offense, and Carson Beck is not cut out to run that type of offense. That's not Carson Beck's game. I don't know how he's going to transition to a pro-style offense, so we're going to have to see how that plays out. That's why I'm fine with Miami, them being ahead of Miami. Them being behind LSU. I'm fine with them having fallen behind LSU. Look, LSU is loaded with talent. They've played together for a while. The question is just the intangible factor of, as Brian Kelly, as a head coach, can he motivate them to play hard? We still don't know. Ole Miss, not okay with that one. Ole Miss is like Ole Miss is the opposite of Tennessee in the sense of there is no chemistry. It's all transfer portal talent. While the talent on paper may be there, I just don't see how you can leapfrog them ahead of Ole Miss with all the attrition. That can't be sustainable long term. There's a ceiling for Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin if they keep doing that. Michigan. Tennessee should be ahead of Michigan. Now, there is the chemistry factor. There is the talent factor. They have both, and they did finish 8-5 and beat Ohio State last year. They had a strong finish to the season. I understand that, but at the same time, how you play in October has to count, and a lack of consistency with Michigan. You have to factor in Sharon Moore as head coach. Again, the SC Plus, I'm not saying who should or should not be behind or ahead. These are actual analytical rankings. They take into account returning production, resume from last year, and recruiting and talent. So this isn't like, arbitrarily we're ranking teams. I'm saying using the factors that you can't value in this, including the intangibles of chemistry and coaching. I don't know if Michigan has the coaching right now to keep this team together. Sharon Moore as an interim was one thing, but as the head coach didn't seem like he had them together last year for a while. So I would have Tennessee ahead of Michigan. And finally, Clemson. I think Clemson's massively overrated. When you break down what they did last year on paper, Kate Klubnik did not have the renaissance that everybody thinks he had. He was actually terrible in November. Okay, he scored 14 points against South Carolina. They then lost to Texas in the first round of the college football playoff. He's coasting off an ACC title game where he played very well against SMU. Kate Klubnik's very, very overrated. So with that in mind, if I just took the teams they were competing with, Tennessee would move all the way up to number 9 in the SC Plus rankings, which is how they finished the year. However, at the same time, Texas A&M, I think you could make a case to be better than them. And then South Carolina down at 17, you can make a case. So there's other teams that could be ahead of them, but that's a debate for another day. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville. Champions look good in orange. hdknoxville.com. hdknoxville.com. When we come back, we're going to discuss Lane Kiffin and Auburn, and it's going to be What the H? Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. I'm here to look at that plumbing problem. Oh boy. Yep. You're gonna need a whole new sink. If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk.
Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Smash that like and subscribe button. We move on beyond Tennessee and we discuss Lane Kiffin. What the H? Lane Kiffin's trolling at Auburn continues. But we're not what the H-ing Lane Kiffin. And what the H again is brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition, rickterryjewelry.com. What the H is for Auburn, because there's some ridiculous stories coming out now that just seem absolutely insane with Auburn. And I mean, Hugh Freeze is looking more and more ridiculous by the day. So this all started recently with news on how Hugh Freeze is going to handle play calling. And this is kind of hilarious, guys. And I got to bring this up to you because it's absolutely wild what they are going to do at Auburn. So Auburn has effectively 3 coordinators on offense. This report first comes from Justin Hawkinson from On3, covers Auburn at On3. Says, quote, he tweeted out at noon on Tuesday, quote, since we spoke with Derek Nix and Ken Austin yesterday, just to reiterate, Nix handles first down strategy play calling. Austin handles third down strategy play calling. And as Nix said of Hugh Freeze, head coach has the authority to overrule anything we say or do. How often does Freeze overrule? Quote, it depends on how the game is going, but he's highly involved. To me, he's an outstanding play caller, and I've learned everything from him. That's what Nix says. Then a question comes in on who calls plays on second down. And Hawkinson says, generally speaking, Freeze. There's no doubt it's a combined effort to some degree, but Freeze is the primary play caller and has the authority to overrule anything. So John Tweet Sports comes out and tweets out basically a summary of what was all said based on the report, which is this. He says, if I'm following at Auburn, Derek Nix calls plays on first down. Hugh Freeze calls plays on second down. Kent Austin calls plays on third down. Hugh Freeze can overrule a play call at any time, but they're all working together on play calling. Seems like a solid strategy. Now, I get this day and age play calling is overrated. But if it's overrated, you shouldn't have 3 coaches having their hands all on the play calling. And Lane Kiffin decided to jump in because Lane Kiffin is Lane Kiffin. And he asked the question that we all want to know. So does a 4th coach call 4th downs? Seriously, who calls 4th downs? Lane Kiffin shared that his trolling of Hugh Freeze continues. As we know, Lane Kiffin has been trolling Hugh Freeze since the start of the year, and it involves Hugh Freeze's golfing. It involves Hugh Freeze not closing deals on the recruiting trail, but having fun on the golf course, which has been a total disaster for him and has been hilarious to watch. And Lane Kiffin, as we know, was a candidate for the Auburn job when Hugh Freeze was hired. I made the argument Lane Kiffin's better at Ole Miss. Expectations are not as high. Ole Miss is a worse job than Auburn, but not marginally worse, or not significantly worse, I should say, to the point where the expectations at Auburn are worse. So put it this way. You weigh a job by how high the expectations are and how easy it is to win there. The expectation to potential ratio at Auburn is worse than the expectation to potential ratio at Ole Miss, if that's fair to say. And that's why I thought Lane Kiffin should stay at Ole Miss. Also, the girls look better at Ole Miss. Sorry, they do. But Lane Kiffin, and we know Lane Kiffin. We know what Lane Kiffin's all about. But more importantly than that, in general, yes, I think Ole Miss is actually a better job than Auburn because of the expectation level at Auburn compared to how tough it is to win. Auburn is the worst of the blue blood programs in the SEC. There's 8 blue blood programs in the SEC. Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Texas and Oklahoma. You could maybe say Texas A&M is the 9th blue blood program. And if that's the case, Auburn is the worst of the 9 blue blood programs. And when I say blue blood programs, I say programs actually capable of winning a national championship. Auburn is the worst of that crew. They are the least capable of the programs capable of winning a national championship. And sorry, Mississippi State, South Carolina, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Ole Miss, those schools can't win a national title. It's just not going to happen. So that's where I got to the 9 schools. And by the way, I'm missing a school, aren't I? I think I'm actually missing a school. You guys tell me which school I'm missing because it's absolutely going to drive me crazy. There's 9 schools that can win a national title in the SEC. And then there are other schools that can be solid but can't win one. And that is, again, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Missouri. Okay, Missouri. Yes, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Missouri. Okay. Those 7 cannot win a national title. But Auburn's the worst of the ones that can, and that's why I thought it was a bad job, because I think Ole Miss is the best of the schools that can't. And still, though, Lane Kiffin wanted that job, and he takes shots at Hugh Freeze all the time for that. I'm here for it because I have no respect for Hugh Freeze, the person, biggest fraud in the history of college football. One thing I cannot stand are fire and brimstone evangelical people who make public spectacles of it, and they're raging hypocrites. And that's exactly who Hugh Freeze is. They use it to cover for their actual crimes. You know, people like Joel Osteen, like putting gold bars behind his toilet and giant wads of cash while, you know, preaching the gospel. Okay. And Hugh Freeze is the college football version of that. That's something I can't stand, and I've always respected Lane Kiffin for going at him. And now Hugh Freeze bragging about his golf game, golfing an unusually high amount of time in the summer while not closing deals on the recruiting trail for Auburn is even funnier to watch. But this all is What the H. It's brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition. RickTerryJewelry.com.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
All right, I got a poll question up, and you guys can go ahead and tell me what you think on this. Hugh Freeze's public display of his faith is inspiring. It's how we should live, or a complete fraud. Okay, let's just see if we have a little bit of fun on this. I'm going complete fraud, guys, and I'm just going to say it. I've told the stories. I know the stories of Hugh Freeze back when he was at Auburn, but back when he was a head coach at Briarcrest, when the whole blind side came out, when he's the one who got Michael Lohr. By the way, on that same team was Greg Hardy. Yeah, Hugh Freeze really taught players character at Briarcrest with a guy like Greg Hardy. And for those who don't know, Briarcrest is a religious private school, Baptist school, evangelical school in the city of Memphis. They portray themselves as, you know, the holy moral school, and then they produce people like Greg Hardy. Hugh Freeze, while he was there, reportedly would require women who did not have, and this is in AL.com. I'm not saying anything new. Women have accused him of this, and it's in AL.com, and it came out. Would reportedly tell women, or girls, high school girls, who weren't wearing the proper uniform to take off their shirt and wait until the proper, in his office, until the proper uniform was brought to them. Yes, he would reportedly, girls who went to Briarcrest were accusing him of forcing them to take off their shirts, and he would look at them in their bras, basically. There's no other way around it, and wait for somebody else to bring the uniform to them. And it's as bad as it looks. That's the type of guy Hugh Freeze is. He is really problematic, and he is very much like all those evangelical TV pastors that preach you the most moral things, live the most moral life, and any sin is a sin. I'm going to judge the gays. I'm going to judge anybody living an alternative lifestyle. And then it turns out they're out here doing the worst of the crimes. Hugh Freeze is the college football version of that. So that was happening there. On top of that, Ole Miss is, let's point this out, when he was at Ole Miss was under investigation for violations and infractions that he committed. How did he get caught with the prostitution scandal? Does anybody remember? Hugh Freeze leaked a fake report that these infractions were committed under Houston Nutt. Why did he push that report to be out there? Because this was pre-transfer portal era, and he wanted the players that he had signed to not flip to go to another school. He wanted them to be stuck with him. So he wanted them to be under the impression that this was all going to go away because it happened under Houston Nutt and not him. Well, he knew that was going to get blown up in his face, but he had hoped that by the time it gets blown up, the players are signed and stuck with Ole Miss, and they can't go anywhere. Okay? Now, they were signed at Ole Miss. They got stuck at Ole Miss. They couldn't go anywhere. And then Houston Nutt sues the hell out of Hugh Freeze for that report. And in the lawsuit and in discovery, that's where it comes out that he was making massive amounts of phone calls to prostitutes, which is what got him fired. Okay, but the prostitutes isn't even the worst scandal. The worst scandal was trying to snake all those students or all those athletes and lie to them and trick them into sticking at Ole Miss. That's the kind of liar he is when he throws his Christianity in their face. And see, the Hugh Freeze-Lane Kiffin dichotomy, and let me tell you why Lane Kiffin hates Hugh Freeze and doesn't mind trolling him. It's very similar to what a lot of people feel is kind of like the California Hollywood versus the Southern evangelical dichotomy. And what I mean by that is this. Lane Kiffin's your California Hollywood guy. You know, he's a womanizer, Joey Freshwater, Joey Swampwater, whatever. He's brash. He clearly doesn't live a moral lifestyle that would be conducive to what you would expect from somebody in the Bible Belt. But I'll just tell you, many people outside of the South, many Californians, many East Coasters, what annoys them about the Bible Belt is they feel like they are judged for their quote-unquote immoral lifestyles in California by people who themselves don't live up to those lifestyles in the Bible Belt. Whereas Hugh Freeze is the evangelical Bible Belt pastor, Lane Kiffin is the California immoral alternative lifestyle guy. Lane Kiffin is always judged for it, and that Hugh Freeze, it turns out, is living a way more immoral life than even Lane Kiffin is. That's what turned people so much against the evangelical community. Hugh Freeze is the face of people like that. He's a fraud. So that's why I think Lane Kiffin personally despises Hugh Freeze, cannot stand him. Okay. And I think that's where it's not so much that Hugh Freeze is sinning as much as people like Hugh Freeze judge every alternative lifestyle possible and shame them and morality shame them when they aren't living it themselves. Okay, and that's my problem. And that's why Hugh Freeze's public display of his faith is, and I think you guys agree with me, because 11% say inspiring, it's how we should live, but 89% say complete fraud. And yeah, I think complete fraud, and everybody who's out on Front Street, for the most part like that, is a complete fraud. Lane Kiffin knows it. That's why Lane Kiffin despises Hugh Freeze. Okay, Lane Kiffin absolutely despises Hugh Freeze for that, because he's getting judged on his lack of morals when, you know, as the West Coast guy coming into the South that doesn't live the Bible Belt tradition code of morals. And he's getting judged while at the same time the pastor, Hugh Freeze, who just can't stop talking about the Bible every other second, is out here, you know, caught with a bunch of prostitutes. Or another one, I mean, just on a different faith, but Bruce Pearl does the same thing for his Jewish faith, which is fine, but he really talks about his faith heavily. And it's like, bro, you left your wife for a woman significantly younger than you when you were at Tennessee. Okay. That happened. So like it's the thing that's annoying is these people that put their faith on Front Street to judge alternative lifestyles, and then they are the hypocrites themselves. Hugh Freeze is the face of that. And Lane Kiffin despises him. And I think Lane Kiffin is going to troll Hugh Freeze until the end of time for that reason. Has no respect for him. Also, he kind of wanted the Auburn job, I think, and he's coaching at Ole Miss where Hugh Freeze was at. That's where it is. So, yeah, I would say these easily, I mean, actually, and this is a great point, David speaks, Hugh Freeze is a Pharisee. You're right. And many of these evangelical pastors that judge you so harshly for everything you do, they are Pharisees. And the Bible Belt evangelical mega church pastors that judge everybody else, they are Pharisees. They are the Pharisees Jesus warned us about. Okay. So you guys need to pay attention to that. And Hugh Freeze is one of those people. And Lane Kiffin knows it. And Lane Kiffin has never pretended to be a moral person. And that's why he despises people like Hugh Freeze. And I want him to keep taking those shots, because I don't think Hugh Freeze should be anywhere in college football. I don't think he should be anywhere near student athletes. Okay. I just don't. I think that slowly of him. That's my rant for this segment. But the most important thing is I want to have a little fun with Hugh Freeze calling plays too. I also have a problem with Hugh Freeze, the coach. Hugh Freeze has totally lost his step as the head coach too. Okay, this way he's handling play calling duties, to get back to that rant. Derek Nix calls plays on first down, Hugh Freeze on second down, Kent Alston on third down with Hugh Freeze able to overrule everything. This isn't going to work, guys. This is going to be a disaster. And the other part of this is one of two things is going to be true with Jackson Arnold at Auburn. Either Auburn or Oklahoma is going to be good. They won't both be good. Why do I say that? If Auburn is good with Jackson Arnold, that means Jackson Arnold wasn't the problem at Oklahoma. Brent Venables and Oklahoma itself was the problem. If Oklahoma is good with John Mateer, assuming he can play given his gambling issues, that means Jackson Arnold was the problem, and he's not going to work out at Auburn either because he's the problem. So they won't both be good. I'm telling you guys that right now. That's a big story. That may be a bank on it for a different day, is they won't both be good. So portions of the program are brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. In South Knoxville and Sevierville, live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. PeakIVHydration.com. Link is in the chat. In 2 minutes, we are going to talk about rules changes to college football. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 Volume 4 dealer.
Right now, get 0% APR, 0 down, and 0 payments for 90 days on select models, plus 2 years complimentary maintenance.
Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at NFC1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program brought to you by Quality Tire Pro, serving Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service, automotive brake alignments, oil changes, and more. QualityTirePros.com. Walk in and say, hey, Bo, Off the Hook Sports sent you. QualityTirePros.com. Also, the UPS store, Hardin Valley, helping individuals and small businesses, wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated. 10629 Hardin Valley Road. We continue with rules changes. Multiple rules changes are coming to college football. Many of the proposed rules changes have been made official after the National Football Foundation announced Wednesday its summary of rules changes. Which ones are good? Which ones are bad? Which ones are meaningless? We're going to discuss that now. And it's Hot or Cold, brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia, daily updates, Facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN, Facebook.com/Sports Treasures TN. Time for a little Hot or Cold, and we're going to bring in the official rules changes now. And we start with the big one, injuries. Faking injuries will finally be curbed. It was always impossible to figure out how to curb faking an injury, because here's the problem. You don't want a player to be incentivized to play when they really do need to pull out of a game. That's why what a lot of people were proposing, which is if a player is down, if he has to be carried off the field, he misses the whole drive. You might see a player try to force himself to play then when he shouldn't. That's a big problem. So what was the solution? It was, let's address it after the ball is spotted. So now, if a player presents as injured after the ball is spotted for the next play, that player's team is charged a timeout. But if there are no timeouts left, that team gets a 5-yard penalty. The player must also remain out of the game for at least one down, no matter what. This is the way to do it. This is brilliant, because if a player is hurt and can't get up, or it's not feeling well at all, they'll stay down before the ball is spotted. Even in a hurry-up offense like Josh Heupel's, they'll stay down. So it's not like they'll be able to push them. They'll be incentivized to push themselves through. They'll stay down. And if they stay down before the ball is spotted, their team won't be charged a timeout and won't be charged a 5-yard penalty. So the faking of the injuries usually happens after the ball is spotted. The defense isn't set. Player goes down to slow things down. They don't have to worry about that now. They can't fake the injury anymore after the ball is spotted. The only way this would work, and don't put it past Lane Kiffin to do this, guys, if I'm being honest, is if the only way you could get around this is if you have a player go down every single play after every single play, just to make sure that you can get your defense set. But who's really going to do that? That's not going to happen. So I love this. I am so hot on this, guys. I can't begin to describe to you how hot I am on this. I love this. It is the best of all the rules changes. And again, it was genius. I didn't know how they could do this, but this is how you do it. Because if a player goes down, they're not disincentivized to go down. They're not disincentivized to go down. They're just disincentivized to go down after the ball is spotted. And the only time you're going to go down after the ball is spotted is if you're trying to stop playing. And if he does go down, no matter what, he has to go out of the game for at least a down, no matter what. And if there are no timeouts left, that team gets a 5-yard penalty. Otherwise, that team gets charged timeout when a player goes down. I love this rule. I think it's brilliant. And again, it could make things more unwatchable with somebody like Lane Kiffin, who will coach a player to go down after every single play on defense. Again, don't be surprised if he does that. But most coaches aren't actually going to do that. So this is an amazing rule. I'm a fan. And I say kudos to college football for figuring this out. All right. In overtime, each team is allowed one timeout for both the first and second periods. Then they each get one timeout the rest of the game. They were previously allowed one timeout in each overtime period. So basically, for those who don't know, obviously the way overtime works now is standard overtime works the way it used to. You know, the first period works like the first period of overtime has always worked ever since overtime was introduced. And then the second period, you have to go for 2 after you score. Once the third period happens, it's just a 2-point conversion shootout until the end. I know it's not real popular to say, but I haven't minded trying to end overtime games quickly like that. College football games need to end a lot quicker. And if you can't win in regulation, then you don't deserve a fair chance to win in overtime a lot of times, particularly if you couldn't win after 2 overtimes. It's luck at that point. It's anyone's game. You got to get the game over. So on principle, I am hot on this rule because I don't want a timeout before every single 2-point conversion, which is what was happening. That was ridiculous. However, I'm cold on this overall. You ready? You want to know why? I don't think overtime should go beyond 2 periods. I think the game should end in a tie. I don't know why we don't just bring back ties. I mean, now, yes, once you're in the playoff, you can have the overtime periods go longer. But I think until the playoff, I think in the regular season, you just have the games end in ties. Honestly. I mean, that's just part of the game. Have it be part of the game. I have no problem with that. Now, so I'm cold on that. Another one. Any defensive player within 1 yard of the line of scrimmage can't make quick or abrupt exaggerated actions in an obvious attempt to draw an offensive penalty. I am hot on this. What they're talking about is guys who are defensive players who are playing off the line. They're not in a 4-point stance. Defensive players who are not in a 4-point stance and are on the line of scrimmage or close to it, and they do something crazy to catch the offense off guard in cadences and oftentimes draw false start penalties. I'm not a fan of that. I never have been. And the reason I never have them is because we tell the offensive line they can't move once they're on the line or else they get a false start. Why don't we tell the defensive players up on the line of scrimmage the same thing? It just doesn't make sense. I'm a fan of this. I'm hot on this. It's something that should have been done a long time ago. All right. Any player holding up a tee on kick returns forfeits his team's right to return the ball. I'm hot on this. This is obvious. This is absolutely obvious. If you're holding up a tee, yes, because you're it's kind of to trick them into thinking a timeout's coming. And yeah, no, totally fine with that. Can't hold up a tee. I'm not feeling too strongly on it because I don't know why players would think a timeout's coming in the middle of a game, but hey, I'm fine with it. Yes, a tee is kind of like a fair catch. And you got to make it very clear that I would just say the minute your hands in the air at all, one of your hands is in the air, you forfeit the right to return a kick or return the ball. So I'm hot on that. Player recovering the loose ball will be added to the list of defenseless players. Okay, I'm really cold on this. I get the whole point of wanting to protect players. I understand it, but there's a scrum when you're trying to get a loose ball. Everybody's fighting. You could end up accidentally hitting a player trying to recover the loose ball when you're trying to recover the ball yourself. And then the ref has to say that you hit a defenseless player. This is a bad rule. This is going to make things really complicated for officials and refs. And there's going to be somebody get really frustrated by this because what's going to happen is, and I'll tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be a scrum for a loose ball. One player's going to dive for it. He won't get it. Another player will dive. And while diving, might make contact with the first player who dove. And then his team might recover it. But then there will be a 15-yard penalty because he made contact with the player diving for the ball that was a loose ball. And he was a defensive player. And that changes everything in its targeting. And he's thrown out of the game. That's a bad rule. I'm not a fan of that at all. All right, defenses can't have more than 11 men on the field when the ball is snapped, and offense can choose to reset the game clock if this occurs after the 2-minute timeout. So what they're saying is like a defense, I mean, I'm very hot on this. A defense sometimes might commit. This is, I think Dan Lanning did this. This is the Dan Lanning rule at Oregon, which is get a substitution infraction to run down more clock because of the runoff penalty. Okay, I'm hot on this. I actually think, and I've been very big on this from the start, the runoff penalty should be a choice by the team that benefits from the penalty. It shouldn't just automatically be a runoff. I just think that in general, don't make it after a 2-minute timeout. So I'm hot in the rule insofar as where it was from last year, but I'm cold insofar in the sense of, I think in general, whenever a penalty is committed, if the clock was running, there's a 10-second runoff. I also think that the team who didn't commit the penalty gets to choose if they want the runoff or not. I think that's the fairest way to do this, and I don't understand why that just seems way too obvious for me. Hot or Cold brought to you by Sports Treasures. Carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia daily updates. Facebook.com/SportsTreasuresTN. Facebook.com/SportsTreasuresTN.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
And the final hot or cold is this. No gun gestures. Nothing related to guns. All forms of gun violence are not permitted, and simulating the firing of a weapon is an automatic unsportsmanlike foul. This year, if a player simulates the act of brandishing a weapon, it is considered an unsportsmanlike act. This is stupid. This is the Ja Morant rule in the NBA, okay? Because Ja Morant got in trouble for simulating a gun because Ja Morant be flashing guns on IG Live. I didn't even have a problem with him flashing the guns. I had a problem with Ja Morant not caring when his team wins or loses. Come on. Let people do a little dance, all right? Let people do a little dance if they want to score a touchdown and do like a little gun thing. That's as old as time. I'm so cold on that. That's ridiculous. So cold on it. That's insane. Come on, guys. For real. You can't like do like a little simulating gun gesture after you score a touchdown. Take the fun and put it back in college football. Don't take the fun out of college football, man. Like, I get it. If you want to ban all use of firearms in the stadium, fine. I get that. But like actual guns, but doing a gun gesture that players have been doing since the beginning of time. This is what's so crazy about this is like, this reminds me of like the whole Chris Rock stand-up where he's like, bring guns to Walmart, no one cares. Bring guns to schools, nobody cares. But say gun in a song, congressional hearing. Like, guns are allowed all over the place, but you can't simulate one for fun after scoring a touchdown in a game? That's ridiculous. That's insane. And with that, I gotta say, I think that I am so cold on this. That's just stupid. Let the kids do gun gestures. Let them have a little fun. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in today. Smash that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell. Turn your notifications on. Tell a friend. Building something great here at Off the Hook Sports wants you to be a part of it. We'll be back on tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, as we are every weekday. You guys have a great rest of your Thursday with